Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fight to Unite podcast. I'm excited to be back today, and we have some serious business to talk about because today, on this particular podcast, I want to talk about how you can set boundaries by not oversharing. One thing that I've noticed in the industry is we have created a community, a space where there's several lots of conversations that are happening between professionals as well as with the client. And so with this particular podcast, I want to talk about some things that I've experienced as well as some things that I've seen in the industry where there has been a lot of oversharing happening in the salon that can play a major impact on your business. And this impact may not be in a good way. So, first and foremost, I want to talk about first, how do you know um, the name of this particular podcast is called Your Client is Not Your Friend. Okay? Your client is not your friend. Now, I know I may have some people that will argue me down and tell me there are certain clients that they consider their friend. Well, I want to share with you that it is very important that we know and understand and have clarity on who people are in our lives. We will have clients that will come in that will be totally genuine and that will have a friend-like personality, meaning they care about you, they genuinely are loyal to you, and they also may be very um they may be very like you feel them a personal connection with them. There are some clients that you will get that experience, but then there's going to be some clients that you will get that experience where it is literally a customer relationship. Like you may not know much about this client, that client may not know much about you, but you are able to service that client based upon their need. Now, regardless of what type of client it is, the root of this particular podcast is here to share with you to let you know that clients are not your friends. If you keep that mindset in the beginning of every relationship with every client that comes through your salon door, this will help and save you a lot during the way. Now, I want you to consider yourself. Have you ever made friends with your doctor? Have you ever made friends with your dentist? Have you ever made friends with any type of service that you may have went in for a professional experience? Have you ever made friends with them? You may have noticed a great connection, and you may have noticed, even if it is beyond that connection and that relationship extend beyond it, you still know how to put this person in its place. Okay? And so I am wanting to share today how we can actually put our clients in the right place and protect our space, set boundaries, and stop oversharing. Okay, so first let's get to the root of oversharing. I decided to look up oversharing and see what exactly is oversharing. Oversharing, the root of it can be loneliness. When a person thinks to be very lonely, they will overshare because they need to feel validated. They need to feel as if they are seen, that they are accepted in some form of way. Um, and they may feel like they need some type of approval. It's usually a trauma response when people get to oversharing and sharing way too much about who they are, what they've done, or whatnot. This is something that you may see a lot from clients that sit in your chair. You may notice that clients may overshare things that they are going through at home, at work, or whatnot. And so, as a professional, you have to find that balance. You have to find a way on how can I create the space for the client without crossing the line. And the reason why I say create the space is because when people usually come to salon services, this is a place where they relax. This is a place where they feel like they can take their hats off, they can be themselves. A lot of the time, they feel a sense to release. So, this is why you usually experience clients that may overshare. And so within that space, I believe that you are able to shape and mold it how you would like to. So one of the things that I want you to consider is there's a way to connect with clients without you feeling like you must overshare everything about your life to clients. And the reason why I say this because you may think that a client is a friend, and this client may not have the intention behind being your true friend. And so if you overshare something with this client and this client no longer wants to get services by you, this client will now take their services, take their money, take their and go to another stylist or maybe go to someone else in the industry. And guess what? It's more than likely the same client will share a lot of things that you overshared in their conversation because you thought this person was your friend. And so today is all about protecting and creating the space without crossing the line. So the way you create the space is you want clients to feel comfortable, but if you notice that a client is oversharing, oversharing in a way where it's too much for you to handle, you are always welcome to shift the conversation by allowing it to go back to the server, or you also can shift the conversation by allowing them to get engaged in the pampering experience. Most of the time, these clients that do overshare, they're seeking some type of peace. They need peace in the area that they may feel worried or anxiety, having a lot of anxiety about. Now, there are some people who may have the heart to help, to assist, to encourage when clients go through certain situations. But then there are other professionals that may not know how to carry the weight of the things that are released during those sessions. And so, one thing that I think is important is that you must know yourself and know how to shift the conversation so that you can be able to handle it accordingly. So, shift it back to pampering experience. This is where you can allow them to ask them to relax, listen to the soothing of the music, close their eyes at the shampoo bowl, allow them to rest. This is why it's intentional that you be intentional of creating that space so that client could feel more released, more relaxed and not feeling like they have to release everything through worry or anxiety. Okay, so that's oversharing. So that is something that we want to talk about most of the time when we get in this space of feeling like a client is my friend. There's some oversharing there, and you may notice some similarities. Maybe you may notice we are we do the same things, this and that, but it does not mean that this person is your friend. And so you must now say, okay, how can how do I notice if I'm an oversharing? So it's important that you know as a professional if you overshare. Here's some ways. First and foremost, you want to become aware. Become aware if you're an overshare. It's okay if you are an overshare. I don't want you to shame yourself, but I want you to notice these things and I want you to consider making some changes so that you can put the right boundaries in place. First and foremost, if you notice that you're an overshare, you share too much of your personal business with clients, or you overshare a lot of things that are not necessarily focused on the services. One thing that you can consider doing is you can consider listening. Try listening more than you talk. This will help you not overshare when clients are getting services. And the next thing you want to do is you want to manage your emotions. If you have something particularly that you are going through or that you are facing in a season, this is why it's so important for a morning routine before you come to work. Because you need to make sure that you've created a space for yourself so that you can actually have some time with yourself, some prayer and meditation time to be able to be encouraged and empowered through your own day. Then also too, I want you to consider if you notice you are an emotional, you're a person that's very emotional and you carry a lot of things emotionally through your day, or if clients go through certain things and you are emotionally attached through these things, here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider going to therapy. You can also too find social gatherings. This will allow you to be socially engaging, so that you don't feel like you have to overshare during your client services. Also, too, I want to give you a key point. When there's a lot of conversation going on during the service, this can kill your duration time. A lot of times, service people in the industry feel like they're not they may feel like they have to double book or they have to take a lot of clients because they have not mastered the duration time. When you limit how much time you spend on talking during the services, especially with unnecessary conversation, this will help so that you can get your services down at a good time rate so that clients aren't there, so that they're not there longer than they should. When there's too much excessive talking going on during services, you will find yourself losing money more than making money. Okay? So manage your emotions. Therapy, social gatherings. You can also journal. Talk with real friends outside of work that would you find people that are not your clients that you can talk to about different things that may be dealing with in your life. And then also too, I want you to be sure that um, I want you to be sure that you are listening. That's one way that you can always be sure that the boundaries are created by just listening. Only talk when you feel like it is necessary for you to come in and share. But I want to share, if you are not that person who can handle the weight of many things that people go through when clients overshare, it's okay not to be that person. It's okay not to um it's okay for clients to respect that and to know that this is not the space that you want to create with those actual issues. And I say that because a lot of people cannot handle it, and it's absolutely okay if you're that person. But I do think that you must know what your boundaries are so that you can create it. So now let's talk about boundaries. Why is it important for us to have boundaries in the beauty industry? Um, the reason why you need to have boundaries in the industry is because this is what's going to protect your business. When there's no boundaries in place, you meet a client. When you meet this client and you're so over friendly, when this client come in, you may start sensing a lack of respect, meaning this client's going to be asking for discount. This client may be late to their appointment. They may cancel all the time. I feel like when there's no boundary, there's a lack of professionalism that is in place. This is how you can actually maintain and be professional when you set boundaries. So you want to make sure you set the boundaries and that you are actually following the policies that you put in place. What is it to have a whole bunch of policies and you do not? What is it to have a bunch of policies and you do not follow them for yourself? What is the penalty if you don't follow your own policy? You want to make sure that you're firm on your boundaries and your policies so that others can respect them as well. Okay, another thing is when you first meet a new client, it is very important that you set the boundaries in the beginning. Have you ever have you ever started a job and they didn't tell you what the policies and everything is going to be before you started? No, they tell you what you're getting into before you enter the job. And the same thing within your space. You want to let clients know exactly what they're signing up for. It is important that you set the foundation in the beginning during a consultation. If you are meeting clients offline, online, and they are booking appointments and hopping straight into your chair without any type of consultation, any type of policy, explanation, or anything, do you know you are setting yourself up for a conflict? There will be conflict that is going to happen regardless, but some conflict can be avoided if there is communication. Okay? All right. And so lastly, I want to talk about, so what do you do if you have made friends with your client? You've made friends with your client, and what do you do if you cross that boundary already? You know that you've been doing some oversharing. You know it's affecting your business because you got some conflict going on. You know you do a lot of venting to your client. You overshare your personal struggles and all of those things. You may have gotten into some drama, some conflict with clients. Maybe this is you in this space. What do you do if you got into this place? Well, the first and foremost thing is good to know that you are aware that you have become this type of professional. Like you noticed it. And so now that you've noticed it, the first thing I want you to do is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the mistake that you've made. But now it's time for you to now step up and make some changes so that you can actually steer this thing in a different direction. First and foremost, I want you to write down all the ways on how you know you've been oversharing. If you've been doing it with every client or if you've been doing it with particular clients, I want you to be sure you are aware of where you've been doing oversharing. Okay. Second thing I want you to do is write down how do you plan not to do this. You got to come up with a way on how you plan to do things differently now. Because if you don't, and you just say, oh, hey, we're not going to be doing this anymore with the client, but you have not figured out what you're going to do to heal in that space, it's not going to make sense. You're more than likely going to make that mistake again. So let's create a strategy. How do you plan to stop oversharing? How do you plan to pivot and make a different change on what you got going on? How do you plan to do that? And so, if it's going to therapy, if it's to start journaling, if it's to create a better morning routine, if it's to start praying more, if it's to start having more moments of gratitude, what exactly is your plan on how you plan to stop oversharing? Okay? Because that information that you want to share, it has to go somewhere. Where's it going to go? What are you going to do with it? Okay? Okay, and then next is what space are you now going to create for this client? because I want you to know you having this conversation with the client, it will be a tough conversation. It will be a conversation that needs to be had with you and the client, but it also means that it does not mean that you will what I'm going to say is it is possible that some relationship will feel a little odd in the beginning. It is possible that someone may not agree with you when you decide to make the change. This is very possible that someone may leave your business because you are now putting boundaries in place. So I want you to go ahead and know that these are possibilities that can happen when you make these changes. But I also want you to know this does not mean do not make the changes. You have to make the changes if you decide to, if you want to become the professional that you are and that you are supposed to be in this industry, to stand firm and set the boundaries between you and client, especially when you have to. This is why this is important, because when you start having to make decisions for your business to take it to another level and to start pivoting and doing things in a different way, it's going to take for you to make some necessary changes in your business. And so if you created friends with clients that does not respect the business side of who you are, the professional that of who you are, they will feel some type of way. They are not going to like the changes that you make, and that's okay. But you must get to a place where you separate and say, this is where the line is drawn. This is where I am going to be a business owner, and this is where I create the space for my clients to connect with me as a professional. But clients have to respect who you are behind those behind scenes, who you are when it's time to operate your business on the business mode and make those business decisions. Clients have to respect that. And so if you have a friend client that does not respect that, they are not worth being your client at all, because you need clients that's going to follow with the vision of what you are building. Okay. All right. So I hope that this helped someone. These are some things that I have learned over the years with building clientele and not oversharing. But also too, it does not mean that the boundary has to be set and there's no connection. You can connect with clients and talk about anything, but it's a place where you don't want to carry the baggage of your client, and your client shouldn't feel the baggage of you either. So you want to create a space where clients feel welcome to come, they feel welcome to get service, but then also too, it shouldn't be an emotional burnout, draining place for you either. When you come to work with certain clients. So this is why it's important that we create the space without drawing, and then we draw the line. We have to know where the line needs to be drawn when it comes to building relationship with clients. I hope you guys gathered something from this conversation. It was a nice, quick conversation, but it's definitely worth the conversation to be had, because you need to know that clients aren't your friend. They are not your friend. And um, I'm going to say this because you may hear some stories about professionals um, who may have built friendship from clients, but I don't knock it. But I do say be very careful, be very wise in your decision on who are your friends, um, because clients are clients. And if something happened to you today or tomorrow, clients will have to find them another stylist. Or if something happened where you no longer can do services, I've seen clients, they will move on quickly. Now I cannot say that there won't be connection. There will be connection when you join with the right client in your professional life. Yes, there are genuine connections, but they are not your friend. You still have to set boundaries. You still have to respect what you are building in your business. You have to be sure that you stand firm on what you are believing to do. All right. So I hope this podcast helped. Um, Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to drop me a comment and let me know what you're getting from this, what you would like to hear more about. But remember, this podcast is all about business leadership. It's also about salon leadership, and we're going to always be talking about ways on how we can grow as professionals, make the right decisions for our business for the times we are in. And I look forward to sharing more great topics with you guys in the future. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all of the podcast software below. Be sure to subscribe and let us know which one is your favorite podcast. I look forward to joining you guys again on next week. All right. Y'all have a good night.